Welcome back. We're going to start our next video here. We've covered a pretty good overview to this point if you've been watching in order. Next thing we're going to look at is our futures info menu item. As I mentioned in the first video, this futures info menu item will give you an embedded version of this tool where you can get the same tool over here on this little icon here. If you hover over it, you see it says view futures information. Okay, and you get it's the same thing. You're going to see the same uh, tabs over here. Difference is you can change, well, you can change the product here. The difference is this has a little bit more functionality in that this will give you some targeted information associated with the particular expiration that you're viewing. Okay, so I can click over to this options on futures tab and I can see all the options associated with this particular underlying contract. In this case, I don't have any other ones. When I was on the November contract, the weeklies were tied to the November. So same tools, pop-ups meant to be a little bit more convenient, has a little bit more flexibility. You can see, I can see the same stuff over here. My date range is similar. Everything's the same. We have that options on futures tab in this version of it. But we're just going to walk through here and take a look and see what we can do. Everything's going to be in sequence. I can do first nearby, so this is going to do a rolling front month contract. So you can click on that, and that's sort of what the market, when they talk about crude oil, a lot of times they'll just be mentioning the rolling front month contract, but that rolling contract will exist for all the different products. You can change the chart type. Again, I generally leave these alone because we've defaulted them to what we think is the most relevant given a particular trading day. The place where you'll spend some time here is in the date range section. So right now I'm showing prior. It's showing prior because this is a weekend day. So the last trading day was on the Friday. So it's showing that trading day. But typically it'll default and come up with today, and then you can go more granularly from an hour standpoint, daily, weekly, monthly, etc. And get information there rather quickly. And it will change the granularity of the chart depending on how far you go. So once you go past a certain point, you're not going to get the intraday stuff anymore. You're going to get more of just the end of day stuff. But we can switch over to the candle as well if we want to get a better idea of what was going on in those particular days. Okay, so again, here we go, back to the default view of this. So we are on our futures tab. We also have a whole spreads tab here as well, and you're going to notice when this is going to show the first spread, but you're going to notice a lot of spreads here, okay? Almost an uncontrollable amount available, but they're all there. So if you want to see them, those spreads are all there in the chart types and that kind of thing. The date range all exists similarly. Way I like to look at the futures as in the term structure as a table. So this just gives me a pretty good idea right away. And we're defaulting to a year. Generally speaking, that's where you're looking, that's where you're targeting, but you can see the entirety of the futures contracts offered on the exchange on this view. But this gives me a good idea of where they were from a change and a percent at the same time. I get open, high, low. I see the volume weighted average price, and I also see the the volume and OI information. So I love this view just across the board and across products. See the same thing as a chart, so you can look at what the term structure of the futures is doing intraday. So here you have settlement is the yellow and the current. You see the blue, but during the day you'll get a more accurate blue in terms of what's going on. So you can see the real change across the whole term structure in a chart standpoint. Then you could also look at this term structure from a historical standpoint. We show you both the table and the chart, so you can see we have current prices, 7-day, 30-day, 91 days. So basically a week, 1 month, 3 months, and we show the term structure as well. So this will be great for looking at something like, the interest rates, Eurodollars or the 10-year. So you can see how that term structure has changed. Here we're going to see price, but there's other ways to look at information here as well for the treasuries. Let's go back to WTI and I'll specifically spend some time over on the treasuries. Next, we're over in the tools section. So here, this is going to, you will have seen the settlements for the futures in another location under the open interest for the particular product. So this is just a repeat of that page. You can also see the open interest here. You've seen this again, same thing, other places, but it's here for convenience. Then there's a trading view uh, version of the contract as well, and then you can build future spreads. So this tool is actually probably underutilized. You can build and save your future spread. So if you pick a product that you wanna use, so I'm going to go over to the WTI, and it becomes pretty straightforward after that. If I wanted to look at the octdies, well, let's do it this way, and I say okay. So now my spread's going to show up. You know, I can build my spread, make it a butterfly. Uh, I can change my date range. I can do new, meaning I'll start over again, or I could even save this. It's going to default this to what the name was, and here we go. So now it's over there and saved. So I can bring it up if I do the next. If I do new, I say yes, and I can just click on that again, so I can save my future spreads over here. So it's a pretty nice usable tool. And again, you have a reminder to take a look at these buttons wherever you see them on any page, but on these pages as well, so you can see how you can configure things accordingly. Let's spend a few minutes over on the interest rates. I'm going to go over to the 10-year, show you a couple little different things. Everything's generally the same, but what you'll see is here we have a term structure like we did before in terms of showing everything, but here we show also the yield for the treasuries as well. So not only the futures price, but also the yield. And a lot of times the yield becomes how people talk about futures in the interest rate market. And we also have a yield curve over here. So not only do we just see we just see this in a percent interest rate over on the left hand side. Okay, so that's and we can take a look at the Eurodollars, and we should see similar information over here as well, but we actually see even more. So let's go back over here we see our table. We also see our yield curve, okay? And then we also see our history, which we saw before, okay? And we also add a section here for stirs, which shows spreads. Okay, so there's a lot of spreads that go on in the Eurodollar. So we're building futures prices, then actual spreads, then butterflies, packs, and bundles. And then there's a LIBOR piece of information over here as well for the futures that exist on this exchange, but these aren't really active or liquid, but it's there just to be comprehensive in terms of what we offer for that particular product. Okay, so that is the futures info. Again, the reminder is it's available here, but it's also fully available here as a pop-up, and all the same functionality. Okay, and with a little bit of a twist and extra, so you can see options on that particular future. So that will be it for the futures info. I will move on to the next piece of the video series in a few minutes.